there in Edgar County.
Good.
All right, we're streaming. Joseph Scott.
So Smollett was found guilty.
Not really.
Except for the last count.
Oh, what's Dr. Watt?
At least that's what my text message said. 5 counts guilty, 6 count not guilty.
I think I want to change places.
But he's not out of line. I don't think he is out of his mind.
I don't know. I want to get back in the corner. This place looks like a fire hazard.
You belong in the corner.
Good evening, sir.
Hey. How are you?
Good.
Oh, that's your... Mark, you say Jeff is coming.
Jeff is coming. He's a little later than expected. I've heard Shelby's going to be here.
Yeah, we'll wait a few minutes then. It's not 5:30 yet, according to my phone.
Fortunately, my clock in my vehicle's a little fast.
Yeah, this must be fast too.
I've got 5:29, but yeah, that means
2-hour deliberation. No, that was Wednesday.
This is exciting.
5:30.
Everybody's on their phone.
Yeah, it is 5:30, so let's go ahead and start. Surely so that guy is straggled in. I've got public body on the list first, so far away.
This became a 5-member committee, right?
Yes.
no quorum.
We're not got a quorum, so
Okay.
I'd really like
So
to.
if nobody has any objections,
Well, you can't have a meeting, but my only comment is get rid of that farm. It's a headache, you don't need it. There, I said my piece.
I've talked to Mark about his plan. I think it's got its points where it could get interesting, hairy, complicated. As far as I know, it's legal.
I understand it.
And I'm not the expert. As far as I know, it's legal. And I was talking to Jesse a little yesterday. This has been the year of the farm, okay? There you go.
We went ahead and just now started, but go ahead. Public body is the first one, so.
sorry about that.
Not for me. Thank you. I owe you.
That's your birthday present.
Yeah.
I was going to speak up in support of the plan. I talked to Mark about it. It has points where I think it could get a little hairy, but if we don't find some conclusion, some resolution to do this legally, then 2022 is going to be the same problem. And nobody in this county has been served by this situation. So I just want to speak up in support of the plan as long as it's all legal. I think it's a little hairy, but the only other option is to dispose of it, and I think a lot of people would be unhappy about that.
Well, now that everybody's here,
I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I know
John
Kurt.
Kraft.
John Kraft, yeah.
Counties are not supposed to be in the farming business. It was never meant to be that way, unless it's directly supporting a poor farm, like was initially intended. So now it's a meeting, it has a quorum, I'd like to say again, just get rid of the thing. You don't need it. Counties were never intended to farm. If they were, then it would be in law. That's it.
Can I answer that, Jesse?
Yeah.
Just to reply to that, from what I've heard in the last week or so, there's legislation going in place to take care of this. It'll probably be in place mid-year.
If that's the case, more power to you.
Just saying, it could be the easy out here. May be, it may not.
If they put legislation in, more power to you. I'll stand up here and say, good job leasing it out, if that's what they put in the law.
Got you.
Well, I'm going to speak then. I'm surprised you didn't say it.
Oh, break the law, change the law?
No, this isn't about legislation. You can put all the legislation in you want. Brad, you're state representative, so here it goes. The annotated constitution is very clear that the issue of leasing property has to have a public purpose. So if it's going to be leased, it has to have a public purpose. That doesn't change. We're not doing a constitutional amendment. That's the only way around leasing the property. So I'm not sure what legislation you're referring to and how it's drafted, but if they think they can draft something that's going to give them leasing powers, they still have to meet the public purpose criteria outlined in the Constitution. And to date, that's never been done. That's all I have.
May I
Yeah.
respond? As far as I know, our discussion that we're going to have is not going to be about leasing. It's up to Jesse, but Jesse, as far as custom farming,
I was gonna
can
address
we
that down at the
ask-
end, yeah.
Can we go ahead while we're in public
Yeah,
comment?
go ahead.
If there's any feelings from the public as far as custom farming?
I would highly suggest that it has to be custom farmed this year. It cannot sit idle another season. Something has to be in place for 22, I feel like, as a taxpayer of Shelby County.
If you're asking for input, this question was raised when Bruce Cannon was the chairman, and I distinctly recall that's a great question. Why don't we get a legal opinion? Because I didn't see any reason why you couldn't, and that was never pursued. But that was a question that came up almost a year and a half, if not at least a year and a half ago, was to custom farm. And it's not leasing it out. You're taking care of your own property.
And there is statutory authority for the county to hire someone to maintain the property.
Any more public comment?
You don't have anything on the agenda?
I want to go on down to what we've been doing.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. Department of Agriculture, let you all know, cited us for having noxious weeds. And that was the first thing on our agenda as a committee to take care of that problem. So originally, we had planned for a local farmer to hire him at a custom rate that we come up with. And he determined he didn't think he had time, and it's been a hard fall. Me being a farmer, I totally understand that. And to tell you the truth, anybody in this room would probably went up there and done it. But we didn't have time to run up there either. I mean, everybody trying to get crops out between rains and tillage, and so we did some calling, and Barker Implement out here rented us a tractor and a VT tool, a 40-foot VT tool. And Gary Patterson, who he's not on the committee, but he is a board member, he said, if you guys rent that, I'll volunteer my time to do it. He's retired. He's got the time to do that kind of stuff. So he did it. He was a better part of 3 days off and on of doing it. And he found some wet spots, and there is some drainage problems out there. And but he kept working at it. You know how if you're a farmer, you work as close to them spots as you can without getting stuck. That's what my dad always told me, work as close as you can, but don't get stuck. So that's what he did, and Jeff delivered the fuel to him. So we owe a lot to Jeff and Gary for doing this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got done. I don't know of any other way. Do you, Jeff?
Well, we had to have your technical assistance one day, so.
And we called 3 different individuals to try to get this job done. So we tried, but there was only one window to get it done, because after he left, in fact, it rained on him when he took the tool home that day. And then we had agreed to spray it also, and that job hasn't got done yet because it hasn't been fit to do it. Do some fall spraying, and then it's clean for, we're compliant, is what I'm saying. And I talked to Jake Pfeiffer, who's the equity rep for that area, and he thought they would try to get it sprayed next week. So, so that's all I have to say on that. You got any more to add, Jeff, since you was...
I think I ought to put it in the minutes. We really owe Gary big time.
We owe him. I want all of you to thank him. Anybody doing that needs a lot of thanks. So now, you want to mention the fuel part, or?
Here's what I did. I hauled 100.
Let me finish this so they know that. On the tool rental, we was going to hire that done, and it was going to be $3,626. But he had to go over some of that twice. They was charging $10 an hour for the tool and $85 for the tractor, or $10 an acre and $85 an hour for the tractor. He had to go over some of it twice. So the estimation we come to $3,600 or $3,615, which was what, $11 under what we had figured. But Jeff's going to have to address the fuel thing there. So
I hauled it up there 3 times. That 110-gallon tank, but what it come up to is 254 gallon. By the time we finished up, how much he had left? Probably not much at all, because when we got it,
you tried to not have much left.
Yeah, it was pretty much empty when we started. And what I did, I just had equity, put 254 gallon in my tank, and whatever it was that day is what it is. And it come out to $700.89.
What was that again?
$700.89.
Oh, 700. I don't have any more. You guys want to comment on that on the committee or anything, or?
How many hours does it do that?
I think he said 19, didn't he?
Yeah, share less than 20 hours, he
Yeah.
said, yeah.
That includes picking it up and taking it back.
Up there on that, if you guys have been out there on that north end there, on the other side of the cemetery, there's a waterway runs through there to the east side, and there's water standing in that. And then when it goes to the south, he was trying to find the perimeter of all that when he first went up there. I drove up there, I seen Jeff's truck, and I didn't see anybody. I thought, and so I got in the back of my pickup and looked around, I didn't see anybody then yet either. So I called him, I says, "Where are you guys at?" He says, "Well, I don't want to tell you this, but," he says, "we're stuck."
Technical difficulties, don't say.
So we found a neighbor and borrowed his tractor and chains and went over there and got him out then. So we broke the chain twice, didn't we? But we got him out. So it was a challenge to get it done, but it just shows you can work together to get things done.
So we have a bill for $36.15, right, from Barker Implement?
I brought it in and give it to the clerk, and it's went through your purchasing committee, the way I understand.
Well, we tabled it in there, just kind of wanted to go back in front of committee, so we got the whole committee.
But it should have been for $36.15. Well, I think I got a copy of it in here somewhere.
Jesse, are we going to ask you a question, or is that not allowed? I'm just asking.
What's that?
Are we able to ask you a question at this point, or not?
I'll entertain a question. I'll entertain a question, I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, I just,
You're the chair.
how many acres did he go over? How many acres?
196 is what they call that out there.
Okay.
Hill. Actually, that's a 240-acre farm.
Then answer your question.
But he probably went over, he figured, doing that one piece up there twice, he figured 200 acres, I believe, yeah. I think on the bill it said 200.
Yeah, 19 hours on the rental.
Yeah, here it is. 200 acres, yeah. You guys want to see it or anything?
No, I'm good. Yeah, the purchasing committee tabled it to allow the farm committee to, everybody to see the bill first, or to,
The bill is the bill, and that's what it was, and
yeah, just,
so it's gone, the process went through the committee the last time we met, and the process was approved by the board, so.
Yeah, we had a special meeting to do it, so.
it's just that if we had the fuel to, we're over what we had.
The fuel will make it over,
But
yeah.
I think we should ask the full board to approve the pay of fuel.
The full board or the full committee?
The board's got it, the
Yes.
fuel bill's got it.
Because it would be dollars over what we were.
That'd be dollars over what was approved by the board.
We're not on the agenda this month, but
At least we can get Josh paid.
yeah,
My part, I don't care, well, I do care about, but at least get Josh paid.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only thing I would make a comment on is, if we do something like that again, have the truck show up at the field, fill the fuel tank.
And I understand that, but we got the tractor that morning. Josh was gonna fuel up, he lost power to his building, so normally he would have. He's kinda in a pickle there.
We thought of that afterwards. You know how you do some things on the farm, and you think, I should have done this. Well, that's one of the things we should have done.
And I would be more than happy to donate to help cover the fuel for all that concerns.
What's that, Mark?
I would be more than happy to donate to help cover for the fuel if, need to be taken care of.
Well, our plan didn't go as planned, so, you know,
We had to do something.
yeah.
Yeah, my concern is, just the sheer optics of it. I mean,
I know what we're supposed to do, I mean, and I understand where you're coming from, don't get me wrong, but
I think he should be paid. I mean, he shouldn't have to donate his fuel for this.
I'm not, right.
originally when that started out, we was gonna have that tractor and tool for 2 days.
Yeah.
And so, did we wanna wait until 4 o'clock that evening and then come out and run fuel? Not really, it's kind of.
Well, we wouldn't have been done yet.
No, we wouldn't.
And he would have had fuel if Josh's pump would have worked.
Yes.
So in some respects, it was built into the rental. Had to improvise. So I would say, if you want to mention it during your public or during your committee comment, is pay to the supplier.
Can I do that without
You wanna
being
do
on
that
the
way?
agenda?
I don't,
Pay directly to the
main
supplier.
thing is get Josh taken care of. If I gotta wait a couple months, that's fine, I don't care. Just wanna get Josh taken care of. He kinda helped us out quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, I don't normally get a rental tractor for 19 hours.
No.
Well, I've started to make comment that you need paid.
Well, let's worry about it next month, it's fine with me.
Okay, going on, if ain't nobody else has a comment on that, let's talk about what you're thinking about doing, and the custom farming's been brought up, and it sounds like that's the only close to legal thing.
Trying to meet somewhere in the middle to
Right,
make the county some money.
and I don't know what you guys think, but we need to act on this, not drag our feet till May or June.
Yep.
Mark, do you have the criteria on the contract of,
No, I have not written
Rough
up any
draft.
type of a rough draft of a contract. Mine was mostly the components to look into. There, 2 months ago, that's actually in the board's packet, somewhat a rough draft of it. The idea was for us as a committee, first was to decide what type of a tillage practice we think we should ask a bidder to go with. We know we have HEL ground and we have blacker, leveler soil. We do not have an actual printout from the FSA office as to what acres are HEL. That's something Brian was going to address tonight about getting that.
Yeah.
on that,
Yes.
I'd just consider all HEL. That way, one practice, one done, do it.
I was gonna mention too, that traditionally it's been a no-till farm before. But I don't know, you get over here on this west part, it's not, it wouldn't have to be, I would say the HEL's in the middle there where that big terrace is, but I don't know. Like you say, we need to go to the farm service and find out.
My thoughts on this was because we all needed to be together. My thought was treat it all the same with a vertical till or no till.
Yeah,
And so Jeff and Jesse and each one kind of speak, and we would come to a mutual
yeah,
and go forward from there to go to our next item.
that would cut the custom rate down quite a bit. All you'd have to do is plant and harvest, and spray.
So your actions here, but I guess each one I would like for you to say, yeah, I would be in favor of this, or you would like something else, and we'll try to lay out a guideline so that we can put a bid package together.
I think simply stated, I think it's, the criteria is being that parts of the farm are HEL, the entire farm needs to be managed as such, make it a simple cut and dry thing. And then planting, let's see, planting, steps to plant, and then harvest, and then the finish of fall tillage, whatever that may be, conducive to HEL ground, be put into a maintenance, basically a maintenance package, including maintenance of the road ditches and waterways.
Yeah.
And then we would, the committee would hold back and basically have a administrator. We need to establish somebody as administrator, in my opinion, that would be the day-to-day one-on-one go-between between this committee and the retailer as far as getting spraying, anhydrous, fertilizer, those types of things done. But the committee would decide, this is the plan for the year. The board would approve the process, and then the administrator would be the one that said, hey, beans are 6 inches tall, they need to be sprayed the second time, whatever the case may be. But this is such to me, it's for lack of a better term, it's a fickle situation, like we know this fall with getting tillage and stuff done. There needs to be just one person that is that go-between as far as the retailer and the county.
I agree with that 100%.
But once the fertilizer is established, we're going to spray X amount of acres or X amount of fertility, we're going to spray X amount of acres with this bean chemistry, this corn chemistry, and these acres need anhydrous put on. You can pretty much turn it, say, whenever, if you do spring mowing or whatever, which HEL ground, you probably need to do spring gas. Decision's been made.
A lot of that would be between the administrator and just calling the retailer and saying,
Hey, it's ready.
it's ready.
Or better yet, whoever's doing it, work hand in hand, because
Here's what I suggest. Most of the people I deal with on the retail end, most of them are CCAs, and we meet with them in here, and here's our plan, and when it needs sprayed, but one of them lives right out there in the area, Matt Furr and Jake Pfeiffer. They work together. We put together our plan, and we already know our cost, what we're gonna do on our herbicide. We plan our herbicide, and I'm sure you guys do too ahead of time. And when it's ready to do it, they know when to do it.
they better know, well, maybe Bobby probably knows.
Well, he knows as much as they do, yeah.
And
I kind of leave it up to them.
I do too.
because we're probably going to invite whoever bid and whatever retailer, which, and Jeff and I talked about this, I think when we pick the retailer, we kind of want to stay with one.
I do, oh yeah, definitely.
In other words, it's
You get your best deal that way, too.
bid process that we want the,
Front to back, yeah. Just one reason to keep, the reason I bring up like an administrative type person. I call him administrator, I don't know what you want to call him, but the retailer's got to know who the custom farmer is in that situation. Because if you're going to spray trees down or burn down or something like that, well, if the farmer planted it a month ahead of when the retailer thought it should be sprayed, well, now so we still need to have some management injection there.
Yeah, he needs to know planting date and all that.
He doesn't want any different input from the 5 of us either.
No,
What's your criteria for picking some of these people, like your retailer, so on and so forth?
That's where we hope to put together our plan and then go with our suggestions by the retailer and then pick a final plan.
and the cost, he'll give us a bid on what's gonna be, just like all of us do in the spring. I already know, most of us know what we're gonna spend. Well, maybe not. If you ain't got anhydrous to buy yet, boy.
It's a combination of, you've got, in this area, you've got four main retailers. Yeah, 4 main retailers. They all carry very similar products and more or less price them out because, in my opinion, there's 4 different opinions on who's best, but they're all good. They'll all do a good job.
And most of them are all comparable on price, really. I mean,
Really.
they all kinda,
One might be higher on potash, the other
Yeah.
higher on phosphate.
Yeah.
It all basically comes
It
out
is.
as pennies.
And I think it would be better for us to put our basic plan together and ask for a bid from them. Yes, we could get together with the 5 of us and ask a retailer to come in, speak to us, but we might have a lot of time built there where if we have our base plan written down.
well, if we know till, it's pretty basic then, And then another thing, with these production costs, and we're looking kind of blindsided too, since we got to put all fertilizer on the spring.
Which
Just
we
to give-
probably would anyway, seeing as it's HEL now.
But you can price fall beans for $12 yet,
Yes.
and corn over 5. I mean, we could price our production costs really easy. I got a question, go ahead.
Are any of these purchases in next year's budget?
Well, that's the next item here.
Can your custom farmer kind of synchronize all this, or does every little step have to come through the committee and the full board?
I believe to answer part of that question is part of the reason that we're custom farming is because the county is still supposed to be in control. And I'm sure there's things between the administrator and the gentleman or lady that's doing the custom farming will probably be able to have a lot of input there.
Is this gonna run from, say, February 28th or March 1st to February 28th? The reason I say that is if you're gonna have the same guy doing the spring work, planting, doing the harvest, and do the fall work, I mean, or do you wanna split it off? Somebody do the spring work, somebody do the fall work. I'd just soon have one guy do it all.
I would too, if it was a flat, square farm, I would say you could just about hire anybody, But this farm takes some care, they get down there and get stuck and make a bunch of ruts, Gary found that out already. It's somebody that needs to be familiar with it, and then the same guy mow the water. There's a lot of mowing there. It looked to me like, you think,
Yeah.
or bale. The waterways could be baled off too.
I don't know, is any of them waterways in the program though? Maybe you can't.
Well, that's something, I don't think there's any being
I
government, I don't
asked
think they
Darren.
can take a CRP payment, could they?
I asked Darren if there was anything in CRP about a week ago. And he didn't do a thorough search, but he said, no, there wasn't. He didn't think there was anything in CRP,
I wouldn't
which
think.
surprised me. I figured maybe the terrace, some portion of that.
May have been at one
Somewhere
time.
way back, I bet they got some program money for that terrace, don't you think? As big as that is,
I would think so,
Or at least a cost share.
something.
but I think that's, you know, when we when we assign to the well, who is going to be in charge for the FSA office? And didn't you say something earlier about it needing to be the board chairman?
Well, my hope was that it could be a office. But it cannot be an office, it has to be a specific person. That's why Bob Jordan's still in the paperwork for the FSA office, he's not even on the board anymore. So that whole situation gets sticky in a hurry, because then who's in charge of, I mean, you have to go down there with the
Gotta have your acre
Count.
for it.
well, you gotta go down there with the county clerk and the board chair to be witnesses to change that information to somebody else. I don't know these answers. But in order to deal with the FSA,
I was thinking that Lee had told me, when I talked to him a couple months ago, that it would have to be conveyed to the FSA office through the board chair.
So that's fine, you know,
To assign whomever.
that'd be, you know, perfectly fine, you know, that's probably who it ought to be, you know.
Yes, whether the board chair can assign it to you or someone else, I'm not positive on that.
There's not a lot of work that this farm will do with the FSA besides reporting acres. They're not qualified for any payments.
then the next question, my question would be insurance. You said we are eligible for insurance.
We are eligible for crop insurance.
I don't know where you guys, corn, I run 80%, 75% on beans. Where you guys at?
Oh, beans that were, hate to use the word risk, but I'm gonna use it. But since we're putting taxpayers' funds at risk, I think we want to be at the highest level possible.
You price the difference between 80 and 85?
It is quite a difference, but I kind of agree with him.
That's
Okay.
fine, but there is,
Highest economic, I mean,
Of course, this will be enterprise, not that it's gonna make that big a difference.
Yeah, that's a little cheaper, enterprise, than basic.
last I checked, it was, on corn anyway, it was like $22 an acre difference. That's a pretty big jump. And I don't care either way, but
yeah.
Replant is one of the most important things.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So what are we actually after? Are we gonna take the 85, like I said, I don't care one way or the other. But if we take the 80, or just take 80%, are we just interested in covering our costs? You know, our taxes, inputs, getting a custom farmer paid? I mean, what's your goal? I guess is what I should say.
We eliminate risk, yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
We don't have a yield history, the yield's not gonna be real high, you know, either if we take the county yield.
Yeah, we'll have a county average.
I think it's like 154 right in there.
So, you know, 8%, 120.
Yeah, that 85% off of county average is not really gonna make a huge difference versus 80.
Not really, if your APH was up there 220, yeah.
Yeah, if we had a year like this year and then we're taking out then I could definitely more justify the 85.
Yeah, but don't they take 5 years history though?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So we
even
would
if
have the county average for 5, or for 4,
Yeah.
and then they think I'm everybody.
Covering the cost at minimum was a bare minimum. But what about next year's expenses? So, I mean, if you had to, yeah, because, you know, this year, we're gonna pull out of the budget to get there. Some. Respectively, the proposed idea, or conversation idea, I shouldn't say proposed, never was proposed.
You want me to say it?
The retailer's expenses would then be the retailer would buy the grain to cover the expenses. At least that way it was a fall settlement, basically.
We would get a price for the inputs from the retailers paid at harvest. So we need, in other words, that's our cash price, paid at harvest. We have, and this is moving a little bit from that, as far as the custom hire side of things, such as we had here trying, it did affect what we were trying to do here this last month. We had those people that may have done the custom work for us that were, yes, they were in a time crunch, but at the same time they were worried about whether they would even get paid because of our history. So whether we have to ask for a budget to pay those expenses of the custom hire or pay them afters.
Well, there'll be some few other bills that's gonna come in between there too. I don't see how we're gonna get out of them in the budget because number one, crop insurance is due starting middle of August. They keep moving
Yes.
that up on us, so.
It's always due before your crop is.
Yeah, we don't wanna, you don't play with them people. There's not, I don't recommend it anyway.
Well, I wouldn't mess with a custom farmer either. And
Yeah.
then that could be parts of the terms of the agreement too. So you bid, let's say you bid $100 an acre to do the planting and tillage and harvest, and each step is broke down into a dollar figure, and when that step is completed, turn the bill in.
Well, maybe to simplify that a little bit, after crops are planted, give them 50%, and the other 50% after harvest.
When we were talking to Jim last year, Swarm, about this other program, that's kind of what they are doing, I think.
Gotcha. It's not a bad idea, the guy ain't sitting there hanging.
He gets his spring money that he does, and
I
then,
agree, I don't believe they should have to wait.
no, I wouldn't want to if I was doing it. Would you?
No.
I mean, you got fuel to pay for, and
I'd do it, but it's family.
yeah, well,
Do you feel like we're going to have any problems with, in a bid, I guess that's just part of the bid thing, I guess what no bid.
getting a bid.
Getting a bid, yes,
I think
because of the pay in the rear or pay ahead.
No. We can get you a bid.
All right.
Do we have an interested man here, do we?
Yeah,
Can
I
I
have a lot
have
of
that?
interest in making sure this is farmed this year. I am adamant that it will be farmed.
But we are too.
And I have contacted, I just need to know the parameters. If you guys say no-till, and you say mowing roadsides, and you say Harvest to TGM in Shelbyville, I can get you a number. I need the parameters, and it will happen.
That'll be published.
Yeah, that's-
It'll
Yeah,
be-
and I'm sure there's gonna be others that would probably be interested, but there is no reason for it not to be farmed this year.
All right, on
And
that,
I think that's what we're trying to set as parameters. Go ahead, Jesse.
now, isn't it right, if it's under 20,000 and below, you don't have to take bids, isn't that right?
30, I believe.
Is it
I
30?
don't want to go there.
I don't know,
I
that's
would
just,
love for us just to take the.
when we
bids
were
and
doing
just
it this
keep
spring, certain jobs we were talking about, just, if you could just get a guy to do certain things, But the bidder is the right way.
Well, we're actually, otherwise, we're asking for the bid to be, well, we're talking about a one-stop shop in the end, the whole process in one bid.
Well, there again, there's not that much around here, but you get the same guy, or different guys, say, guy plants corn in spring, 20-inch rows. What happens when the guy that you got in mind to harvest got 30-inch rows? I mean, it's, to me, it really needs to work hand in hand and bid it accordingly.
This is,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think if I hear what you're saying, it's just a matter of orchestrating a request for bids with the criteria like you just explained. Here's what we expect, A, B, C, D, E, and all of those will be in that package so you don't have any of those problems. You put that out for bid, you have a meeting, you open up the sealed bids, and you award the most responsible bidder. It sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think we're just hashing out the criteria.
I think
Yeah.
it makes
Make
it more
it just-
difficult than what it needs to be.
What you
We
just
just-
said is a great point. You put that in the RFP, the request for bids, that it shall be planted, at this row. And that way, everybody knows ahead of time. And once it's all laid out in that criteria, you shouldn't run into hiccups.
And put the mowing and, it's, to keep it neat. The cemetery needs to be, I know there's just one stone there, but it be maintained. I'm pretty high up on that. When I drove out there, somebody had mowed it. They say community services have mowed it,
Township's not taking care of it.
I was just told that the cemetery, or the community service mowed it, I don't know.
Usually townships take care of your cemeteries.
They may not even know it's back there.
They may not
They
even
may
know
have
their
just-
responsibility to it either.
Yeah, is it identify the parcel, is that parcel separate? Is it a private cemetery lot or is it a
I
public?
believe on the
cemetery?
plat book, it's marked.
And
They'll mark cemetery in there. I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe it is.
No, that's not it. I don't know what that does.
if it's a public cemetery, then
You
the
actually go
township,
back here, and then you go back up, and it's, well, if you can see it, that's where it's at. Yeah, most people don't even know it's there.
It's way back there.
if it's separated out in the plat book, it's either a private or a public. If it's private, then the owner of that lot, there's a process to go through. If they're no longer around, if you can't identify who owns it, there's a process, but typically townships take care of the mowing of your cemeteries.
I'll look tonight, but I just about bet that's probably considered private.
Well,
I mean,
they're not even for sure. There's one marked, and I've heard that there's probably many more graves there, when it was the county farm is when they buried them there.
A supervisor of assessment should have on the plat what that cemetery lot parcel number is, and should have an owner's name of the lot. And a lot of times it's a cemetery association or a church. Who knows what the name is, but that's how you would start to
But the
identify.
clerk should have that record there.
Supervisor of
Oh, the
assessment,
supervisor of assessment.
and that's a starting point to determine whether If it's a private association, a cemetery association, which there is a state association, they should be taking care of it. If it's a public, then the township falls into it. But it could belong to a church somewhere along the lines. But first you gotta identify the parcel ownership.
Dumb question, but could a county have a private cemetery?
I don't know about counties off the top of my head. I know cities do, townships do. There's the State Graveyard Act, and then there's cemetery provisions in township. I don't recall seeing that in a county, as far as a county ownership. Usually typically, I've never seen one owned by a county. It's usually a church association or the township has taken ownership of it.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Is there markers on all four corners of this, or just?
There's post.
There is post, okay.
No wire, nothing in between, but four corners are
There are
marked.
four corners, okay.
Yeah, and it may have been back in the day, if it was part of the poor farm, it could have been county at that time, and statutes have changed since then, so the old laws before the Constitution changed may have had a provision for cemeteries, but I don't know that there's one in the current statutes.
You think there's more than one grave?
There's only one that,
One stone.
yeah. There you can see it on there.
Do you think
One
there's
stone,
more?
but it's suspected there's others.
Suspected.
A lot of the old ones tend to fall over, and then the weeds and whatnot overtake them, but they're still typically there. If you probe them, chances are you'll find several more stones.
We seen that too the other day, didn't we?
Grass.
You brought it up.
There might be organizations that go out there and find them for you.
And, well, back years ago, they were pine boxes.
Metal detector's probably not gonna do you much good.
You tile probe it, you'll find it. So we found a bunch in our township.
Tile probe?
Yeah, when those old limestone headstones fall over, the weeds start growing over it, and over time, you'll end up with a layer of grass and dirt 2 or 3 inches, so you just start
Oh, for the stone, okay, I got you.
popping, looking. If you find one headstone, just start moving over, and sooner or later, you're gonna start hitting them. At least that's what our experience was.
And you can witch for the,
Carol Cole, I think, might know more about the cemetery too.
So too.
But yeah, you see that, and that terrace is right there.
So I think, from what I'm hearing of everybody, a lot of the parameters, I think we're all thinking very similar on.
I think we need to speak out of turn, but I think maybe the first step is go to the FSA office and see what we can and can't do, and then see what we want to do as first till ejection goes and what have you there. Or, gosh,
I like that, break that.
I lost my train of thought.
FSA office, see what we can do.
And then maybe start paying visits to retailers, once we get figured out what we can do and what we can't do. And kind of do like we did this fall, everybody go pick their favorite retailer.
That's what I was gonna suggest, just like we did for the
Since we
spray
kind of all
program.
deal with a different one, it
Yeah.
works out pretty good.
And see what we can do on the prices and when we have to pay. And,
Well, yes, and then
I mean, get the seed and everything, one guy, even if you want, it'd make it so much simpler when it's all said and done, what you're gonna have to pay.
well, there again,
Go ahead.
you get the cart in front of the horse. I mean,
Seed size.
you don't really want to go out and buy the cheapest seed you can, and you get,
Oh, no, I didn't mean that.
well, what I meant here was, say a guy's got a finger pickup planter, and you don't want to go buy a bunch of plateless seed, and
No.
man, he ain't. So some of this is
Well, yeah.
kind of got to work hand in hand.
But what I'm saying, when you know all that, then get your retailer together, you know, to tell him what you want.
Got you.
And then all of us get a bid on what we know we need.
Okay, this will help a lot in that aspect. Are we thinking splitting the crop, corn, half beans, or is there a particular layout that works on that farm where it's, let's say you had 60 acres of corn and 40 acres of beans because of where the lines of waterways or something's at? I don't notice, I don't think anybody's wanting to go 100% one and then 100% the other.
No, I'm highly against that,
Jesse?
because expenses, if you go the wrong way in the wrong year, expenses eat you alive, and then it could be a windfall the next year, and we need some sort
Remember 12?
of. Yeah.
Yes.
I think
I don't, you know, yeah, I go either way on that.
Some of it would be dictated, I would think most of it would be dictated by the lay of the grouping of the ground.
What about half and half anyway?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
It's kind of laid out on that map. You can kind of tell what Jim had planted where. And I think we ought to stay the same route as 50/50 as well. Spread of risk.
Yeah, if I was doing it, I would want to.
So there's one parameter we take care of.
You can kind of tell with the color there.
Yeah, that's what I was going on
Yeah.
there the other day. Trying to figure out which direction that was.
Okay, here's another one, a parameter, when it comes to, upkeep or mowing. I've seen them where they, say twice a year, I've seen others where it says 3 times a year. Always seems to be 3 times a year is hard to make because a lot of them have been dictated to say, we want you to do it by Memorial Day. That can be very tricky to get done.
Well, you know, the way that place is, I would say the entrance there, the main, and the lane, more important, and then the waterways, you know, just get them when you can get them, because they're gonna be hard to, it's gonna
This
be hard to
first year
save.
is
Yeah,
going to be real tough.
because of the way they are. At least at least the waterways get mowed once so that no
And
brush and
some are not
stuff comes up.
accessible during the summer.
Yeah,
Well, I would
Yeah.
hope that if there's excessive, you know, and then the spring might be the time to hit them, but while the crop's short, you can slip across, you know, to get some of those inaccessible areas. But I would put maybe a waterway stipulation of no later than August 1st. And the reason being is saplings and stuff like that, they start to get their run.
Well, you can look at that both ways. For the wildlife people, they want it
I was gonna say,
after 1st of August.
Right.
Yeah, is it August 1st or August 4th or 6th?
Always first.
I always say middle of August, you know, if you can, but.
I was thinking on CRP, it was like the 4th or 6th.
You know, that's a pretty hard one to do too. You can't just go tell a guy, said, okay, we're gonna pay you up to 12 hours mowing, or 20, whatever it may be, because this first year's gonna be a son of a gun.
Some waterways,
You can't get
you
to
just
till
can't get
August.
to, you know. I got a couple now that I need to mow, you know, yet, because it stayed so wet, couldn't get in them. So when it freezes, I'm gonna go chop them down.
When you're done, yours come do mine, man. I got some too.
We have a term because of a lot of waterways we can't get to, we call it snow mowing, and we normally go in December after everything
Uh-huh.
freezes. Those are not
And
accessible.
that gets your saplings in and everything, so you're clean for next year.
The only thing, my only, I guess, argument against snow mowing is much, keep it to a minimum, and the reason being is in the sapling, when it ggets cold, all the sugar goes to the roots. And you can mow it off, and that's absolutely no good.
Well, that's true too.
So that's the only reason why I like that July time frame. In my pastures, I've hacked out a bunch of saplings that were pencil size coming out of the ground, but when I hack the root, it is the size of your wrist. They just keep shooting up saplings. So
Well, there's, after what we seen there the other day, there may be some that it may have to be down there drought before they can get through them.
Yeah,
It's pretty wet, that north end.
yeah.
So,
Well,
so
there's
we're
a-
looking at improvements down the road, maybe laying in some tile or
Well,
something.
there's a tile problem there, I'm sure, don't you think?
Yeah, and I was gonna say that at some point too, if it gets froze a decent day or where we can get to it, I think the committee needs to go take a look.
I'll offer a suggestion. Have you thought about assigning an extra duty to your highway department to mow it?
Thought about that one, actually.
County board has the power to assign duties to other offices. That's a solution. They utilize that in Edgar County to mow airport property. Highway department takes care of it.
Does county highway even have?
They don't, they don't have a mower.
Yeah, I don't know if they do or not. So-
I know they don't.
What about my thought was it was the airport authority.
I thought they.
Airport does.
I was thinking they
The county highway doesn't have
took
a
the strip out of the
Don't
blacktop.
they have a dismal?
How
The
they
county
mow it.
highway does. The township does.
Intergovernmental agreement would be an option if you're looking for options.
Part of agriculture side over.
I think they have a side.
If we don't have any equipment, we don't have any equipment.
Right.
Yeah, it sticks out the side a little bit, because I know they have mowed with blacktop before. Took one swap down, it may be this, it's a side mower like you would use for a ditch,
Who's that?
county, highway department. I have seen them mow.
I know, well, townships have rented side mowers, and I know, I'm pretty sure you're right, the county either rents or owns one, that they mow those high bank sides and get the saplings and the stuff out of the ditches.
We better see if they got any equipment first before we go delegating that.
Yes.
Oh, hi Larry. Jesse, when do you guys have meetings? You're on highway.
Yeah, well, they've already had this month, so it'll be next month.
Yeah, check next month.
Yeah.
While we're still early enough here, do we want to talk about setting another meeting to get together?
Yeah, that's my next thing here. When do you want to have, schedule another meeting then? And, I mean, we need to have it before the next board meeting.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have 2 or 3 more meetings before the next, just to make sure we get something laid out.
Okay, you want to give me some dates here then? Next board meeting be the 13th.
Yeah, I would really like first to have it together so we could be putting out
Oh, I
a
would,
bid by then.
me too. We need to get, I agree with you there.
That's what it's about.
14th, 15th, and then maybe 21st, 22nd. Should we have one next week, one the following week,
Go ahead now.
somewhere the 14th, 15th of next week?
Tuesday and Wednesday. We thinking morning?
Yeah, works for me.
Bobby?
I'm flexible nowadays. As long as I keep the-
I think Jesse's got more scheduled things than the rest of us.
Well, I got a granddaughter that's got a Christmas program. I gotta go to that on Monday. Again, she's in Missouri, and we're not gonna get home till the next day, but I don't know how early we'll be home. Would Wednesday work?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, let's go to the 15th
Okay. And then if we need to get together again, I'm gonna say the 21st or 22nd.
then. Okay.
Just so everybody kind of keep in mind if you have something,
Oh, just throwing out there.
just throwing it out.
21st, 22nd, either one would be all right.
Yeah.
And we can kind of keep our schedules open.
Does time make that much difference to you guys in the mornings?
9 o'clock is 10,
10,
8,
10 works a whole lot better for me, I'll be honest with you.
10 o'clock's.
Yeah. 10 o'clock.
10's fine, yeah.
That's fine.
All right.
That works good. Okay. The 15th, then,
15th, first one. What do we want to grab some stuff together before then?
Where are you gonna have that meeting?
Try to have it right here.
Is the courtroom available that day?
We'll have to check. If it ain't, we'll,
Yeah, we're not set in stone, we're just
Yeah.
see what's available.
we can always have it next door if we had to.
yeah. Or we can have it in that little room downstairs or something too. You know.
What do you want to bring together? I mean, what do you want us to get prepared for?
Well, have some ideas together on the inputs and, well, first of all, how we're gonna do the bidding probably on,
So we kind of
Operator.
each need to sit down and write a list of how we would do parameters. Compare them and then
each
start
one of
working
us
on a
get
final draft.
Get some things together like that on who you're gonna get, or not who, but what you want in your contract.
Can Brian go to the FSA office and get what we need? I mean.
I'll talk to him, yeah.
So do you think the expenses would get too far out of alignment if you put out a bid for the custom passes? If that farm individual incorporated the seed that they're using, but it was built to the county, to save a lot of your time and, you know, it would still be the county's expense, but when that individual bids, it's.
I
you're
kind
gonna
of
come back
understand
with-
where he's coming from.
You're gonna
Go
come
ahead,
back with
go
5
ahead,
different
work now.
recommendations.
You know how it is when we,
They may be totally different to what that farm individual's doing. You know, is there any way of
You're
simplifying?
talking about retailer stuff?
Yes, yes.
The only thing that would jeopardize planning is seed size. The rest of it we can do.
But is there any sense in you guys looking at 5 different things?
I think they're gonna look at 5 and then all put your heads together on each one is the best way to do it.
Yeah,
Is that- Okay. And that-
and part of that is,
I mean, is it?
whether it breaks the $20,000 or $30,000 mark or not, we need to have it bid out. Whether the custom operations breaks that $30,000 mark or not, we need to have it bid out because it's going to probably get close to that threshold. Somebody, you know, those bids all may come in at $33,000. Well, if we've got bids to show that it was 33 and higher, at least it was bid. If they all come in under 30,000, then
That's, I got
we still show that it was bid.
So you're just suggesting if it goes through that there'll be a bid per pass, and then
Oh,
you
you
will
do?
go here and get your seed
Oh,
to plant.
So when we pull retailers' bids, it'll be seed, chemicals, fertilizer. We'll put them all together.
insecticides,
Yeah.
herbicides.
Yeah, all your chemistry, all your fertility, seed you put in the ground. They'll be compared as a whole, and then we'll go with our best pick there. But that is our attribute to managing our ground.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just would hate to see there be 5 different opinions that then we lose another 60 days because everybody can't figure out, should we go with Nutrien, should we go with United Prairie, should we go with Equity, should we use South Central? That should be not even in the equation, because you use somebody different than you do and you do.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And-
why we all would
So-
come with a package to compare.
And when we went through the fall chemistry bids, it wasn't the cheapest bid, I don't believe. It was,
Chemistry of it.
We had 4 different retailers, 4 different, none of them was the same.
no, we picked what we thought was gonna give us the best bang for our buck. And, matter of fact, it was the information I gathered, and I liked somebody else's information a little bit better. But as a whole, it's like, well, yeah, okay, 5 of us were sitting here, it's like, yeah, okay, I don't. So, no,
This is streamlined, you know.
well, the exercise that we did a couple months ago kind of showed us that we can all look at the information, and this committee's
Can work together.
pretty soluble as far as working together, so.
Want to change that 15 for Brian?
That was on our next meeting
The
schedule.
fit, well, he just got a
Text for
text from Brian,
Brian.
the 15th won't work.
Yeah, he's got an elevator board meeting
Okay.
that day. 16th, Thursday?
Let's try that then.
That work? for you
We
guys?
might get to the time of year where it's gonna be hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, sure.
Oh, that guy. There you are. Thanks for coming.
Yes,
Uh,
appreciate the comments and information.
Are we,
Yes. I just,
anything else before we adjourn? We've got 15 minutes here for,
Yeah, we got a few minutes to go upstairs.
Quick question of consideration, have you guys, as you mentioned, this has been no-till in the past, have you guys ever looked at selling your carbon credits?
I would just as soon not start that at this point in the game, but that might be something to look at next year.
there's a lot
And that's
in
part
this
of,
county not known about it too.
Yeah.
well,
There's some
Along-
meetings
along those-
upcoming on that.
along those lines, basically, you know, being this is a county farm, this could be, you know, if we work with the FSA office and the NRCS, this could be one of those situations where, to an extent, we manage it, but if we follow the STAR program and do some of the things the STAR program incentivizes through carbon credits and such, we could demonstrate, that'd be a demonstration farm for anybody to view eventually. I mean, that's
Well-
all, but that's all, to me, it's out there.
Well, there's plenty of big corporations dealing with emission issues that buy carbon credits. It's just a paper shuffle, we all know it, but the carbon credits are there if it's been no-till.
Oh, I'll mention something else too. I've never said this before, but every year I go to Christian County. University of Illinois has got a demonstration farm over there. They have a pasture walk,
Douglas Smith.
and I learned that they do cover crops. They're doing different things with the tile where they capture the water and then they let it go, you know, again. And it's Dudley Smith's farm. They donated it to the university, and that serves a public purpose, you know. If we can work something like that into this, you know, because that would be perfect cover crop farm where we're
Oh, yeah.
county farm.
Yes.
I can show you some very decisive information, but that'd be crime.
Yeah.
It's a little late to start that for
Yeah, it's, that's just an idea.
Something as a committee, it would be a great discussion point going forward.
But anyway, yeah.
I'm not opposed to that at all.
I'll have to get back with you on some dates then, because
That's
Brian
fine.
can't do that one, he's got an elevator meeting, so I'll call you or text you, but give me your guys' dates that works for us.
16 works.
16, December 16th would
Yes.
work, and the 21st and 22nd would work,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
The only thing I can think of, let's see. 23rd, I'm guessing the courthouse might close.
Yeah, we're getting close enough to Christmas there.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion on adjourn then?
I'll make it.
One second.
Yeah,
6:42.
6:42.